Welcome back to Whiplash Wednesday. I am the magnificent TM. Guys, happy new comic book day. Hope you guys picked up everything you wanted and hopefully you still have some money in the bank. This is your second stop of Whiplash Wednesday. Hope you guys checked out the hashtag Blame Fable show before this one. It was a doozy. We showed off a lot of great comics. So make sure to check that out on the replay after this show. Like I said, this is Whiplash Wednesday, second stop. I'll get to the next stops after this video. Let's get to why we are here. We are here because I am doing a Chatting with the Comic Community episode 15, guys. This is episode 15. I am loving every chat I am having, and I am especially pumped for this next chat that I'm about to have. Let's bring out my friend, John friggin' Thomas.
Station. How are you, Trev?
I'm doing pretty good, John. As you guys know, John Thomas is not a stranger to this community. You see him in a lot of chats and that. But this is your first appearance live on YouTube, isn't it?
It is.
Well,
Thank you for having me.
How about you tell a little bit about yourself to the people that are watching?
Sure. Station, everybody. My name is John Thomas. My friends call me JT. Former masshole, now living in Florida. And I love the format that we all love, comic books. I've been loving them since I was 7 years old, and it's been a while. I've taken some gaps, like most everybody, but I always come back. Love me some Batman.
So let's get into it. Why we're here, we're talking about comics. Let's get into like how you got into comics and how you got your footing into collecting comics.
Sure. So my mom, she got me into reading. I was reading pretty much all the scholastic books at school. I was really enjoying a series called Encyclopedia Brown. I don't know if that's still around, but I would get the books from Scholastic, and I was seeing the Batman and the '66 TV show, and I was seeing the cartoon, and I really liked it. Just everything about him, really like aesthetically, like the pointy ears, like the jagged cape. Blue was my favorite color. The Batmobile, everything about him, and I fell in love. And one day I came home, and I think it was after dinner, and my mom just laid Batman number 306 on the table, and from then on I was just in love. She took me down to a old-fashioned newsstand downtown, and there was an old Italian lady named Nina, and my mom would tell me go up to Nina and tell her you want the current issue of Batman or Detective or anything you want, and from she'd give me my allowance, and that's pretty much where I was every weekend.
That's awesome, man. And I just got to stop right there. And Encyclopedia Brown, I don't know anybody else that loved that series. I love that growing up,
Oh,
Encyclopedia
that
Brown.
was my jam. You saw the clues through the story, and then you got the payoff at the end. I loved it. It's really kind of I wanted to become a detective when I read that.
And weren't you like you were in military police, weren't you?
Yes, I was. I joined the Army in 1990, right out of high school. I was 95 Bravo military police, and I was with the 772. Did boot camp in Fort McClellan. I did tours of Panama, and yeah, fun times.
So were you reading comics when you were over in boot camp? Did you like have like a stash
no,
there?
I no, I wasn't. That was one of the breaks I took. I moved a lot. After when I was in the service, I wasn't reading as much, and when I got out, I really wasn't reading. It finally wasn't until almost when my kids were a certain age, and I had a lot of time on my hands. The kids didn't seem to, need me as much, so I started reading. And these last couple of years, I just dove right in.
So you said you read Batman and that, but like what grew from that? Like what did you start getting into heavily?
So I used to spend every other weekend or so, or every month, I'd go to my grandma's house, and she lived downtown. And this is where that newsstand was that I told you about, Nina. And my grandmother, bless her heart, she spoiled me so badly, and my brother would get so jealous. She'd just give me some money. She knew I liked the comic books, and we'd go to that newsstand, and I already had Batman the Detective from my own allowance, so I'd pick up a book called Marvel Tales, and basically what that was a reprint of all the old Spider-Man comics, and that was pretty much my first Marvel. And I fell in love with Steve Ditko's art and the Stanley's way of storytelling. Like he wouldn't talk down to you. It was like you were a regular person. I just fell in love with it. The Vulture and Craven and all those original Spider-Man villains. I would get Spider-Man. I would get Hulk. Just anything that caught my eye, I would pretty much grab. I never got into X-Men, and I know that's blasphemy nowadays, but yeah, I was just I like the street level heroes, the Daredevils, the Batmans, Spider-Mans. Just something I can relate to more a little bit.
Yeah, don't feel bad. I'm not reading X-Men either. I tried reading Sword and then I fell out of that. Uh, and I'm not really picking up much Marvel, but luckily I have a Marvel Unlimited app. I can go back and read
Yeah,
these series instead of emptying my wallet for, because I'm a huge DC fan and I love my indies as well. So if I'm going to choose books, it's going to be mostly DC and indies over Marvel. So I'm
I'd say
glad I had.
I'd say that if Marvel created Batman, I'd be a Marvel guy. It just so happened that DC is the publisher that carries them and made them or whatever, and that's who I tend to follow.
Yeah, I find like throughout the years, like I was a Marvel fan and stuff, and then as I grown, like I was more into DC, and I'm not sure if that's like if DC goes the mature route, like the more you get older, the more you start to realize you love DC, and it's like, was that like that for you as well, or?
Honestly, really the only thing I was buying was Detective and Batman. I'll always collect that as long as I'm collecting. I'll always get those two books. I'd get Shadow of the Bat, basically everything that was off of the Bat family. I wouldn't really stray too much outside of those bounds. And what it was for me was I moved a lot as a kid. We weren't very rich. We were always moving, and Batman was kind of like a constant. It made me feel like, okay, I'm always moving, but Batman's always in Gotham. He's always fighting Joker. He's always pretty much doing the same thing. So it was pretty much a comfort food for me. Even though there'd be a little bit of turmoil in my life, I could always go back to the book and Batman would be right there where I left him.
So it's like more of nostalgia, like you go back and read that and it reverts you back to childhood, like the
Yeah,
glory days of like when you had no worries in the world.
yeah. And now that I'm older, it's more indie books because they have the leeway to just go balls out, tell any kind of story they want, and that's what I gravitate towards now. It's okay. I've got my comfort with Batman, but now I've got the indie books where they can take me anywhere. You know what I mean? And the stories are phenomenal.
And you've changed, like you like a lot of horror now, like a lot of horror
I do.
comics in that, and like Red Room, I heard you read that and you enjoyed that.
I wouldn't say I enjoyed it. I honestly I felt like I needed a shower after I read it. But I mean, it makes you think. There's some creeps in the world, and I mean, I think we all knew that, but it just I read it, but I was like, wow. I picked up issue two. I've yet to read it, but I think that's where I draw the line. I think I'm done with Red Room, but Red Mother, the plot, those are constant recommendations that I recommend to anybody that's trying to look for something new, and especially horror. Um, I recommend it to Manny and mutual friends of ours, and they loved it. Fable loves it. I don't know anybody that doesn't love the plot and
Yeah,
Red
I
Room.
think Eric read it too, Eric Durant's.
Yeah,
uh he read it as well, and that's a book that I'm planning on picking up. Like I did not pick up the Red Room because I do like my horror, but I'm not a big horror gory type of person, and I'm just like, all right, like it's good if it's like kind of like a mystery horror, or or something that's not full of gore. Just kind of like it gives you uneasy feeling, gives you that fright, but you don't see disembodied.
I'm with you 100%, Trev. I like blood and guts is okay, but if it's not the selling point and it makes sense to the story, okay, I can tolerate it. But I like the creepy stuff, like the mystery stuff, the stuff that gets in your head, like just simple stuff. Like uh, it's hard to explain, but it's just like the Red Mother and the plot. Those are really really good. Stray Dogs was really really good. Played on your heartstrings, especially if you're a dog lover. Just really good books now.
Yeah. Speak of movies that I don't like that and like kind of fall in the lines of like Red Room. It's like Hostel and Saw. I can't watch those movies. Like
Yeah,
I don't get any joy from those. I don't. People are like, oh man, like he got ripped in half. I was like, that's cool. I don't like seeing people ripped in half.
right. I understand it. Yeah, it's not everybody's cup of tea. I mean, I can watch it, but it's not like I'm gonna, we'll go out and buy it and rent to own or wherever, anything like that. The movies I like are like the original Ring, just like creepy stuff. Like you know, it just I was watching that in the theater, and I was like, you'd see those images, and it was very well done in my opinion. And you'd see that a well with a ladder and the horses on that were on the beach, and just crazy stuff. And I know it had another plot to go along with it, but it's just creepy stuff. Is really what I like.
Yeah, I'm so thankful to Dylan from Dylan's Horror Show because I was on his channel not too long ago and we were reviewing Maximum Overdrive, which I've watched, but we were also reviewing two other movies that I did not watch until the week before, and that was Riding the Bullet and Needful Things,
Hmm.
which were fantastic movies, and those would probably be up your alley as well for movies. I'm not sure if
Yeah,
you've seen them or not.
I've seen. I'm a huge Stephen King fan. Living in Massachusetts, and him being from Maine, we my uncle turned me on to Stephen King at a very young age, and I've read a lot of his books. Maximum Overdrive is the one with the truck, right, with the Green Goblin on the front.
Yes.
Yeah, I did see that. Needful Things, I can't remember that one, but I may have read the book. It's just so long ago, I can't remember.
It's like Needful Things was like, what if the devil came to town and was like, gave you something that you needed, but you had to do a favor for him, which was
Oh, okay.
like
No,
just,
I haven't read that.
and it was like disrupting like the thing was like, I want you to do this to this person. Don't worry, they won't know it's you. And it pretty much like set off a domino effect of like people thinking this person did it to them and that person did it to them, but it was just a
Yeah, I
pretty
would
much a
be interested in
circle.
that. I haven't seen it. I would be interested.
Yeah, I
One
don't
of
know
the
if you
books.
watch Rick and Morty, but I guess who was it? Stefan. Stefan said that it played off of they did an episode that was kind of similar
Oh
to the
wow.
Needful Things on Rick and Morty.
Yeah, one of the books I just read recently of Stephen King was Gerald's Game, and that's basically, without giving too much away, a couple. They have a kinky sex life, and the wife is actually handcuffed to the bed, and the husband has a heart attack and dies right in the middle of the act, and she's handcuffed in this isolated cabin, and it's just basically a psychological horror, just a big mind fuck the whole way, and that's kind of like my sweet spot, my jam. Um, yeah,
Have you ever watched Identity?
yes, very
That
good,
was really good.
very good. All
At
star
the
cast in
ending,
that movie too.
oh yeah, all star cast like Ray Liotta was in it, and John
John Cusack.
Cusack.
Yep.
Um, there was a ton of people, and like that ending, the whole trip until like that ending was just flawless. I
Yeah,
thought, and it was a great psychological thriller.
it was. I'm a big sucker for a twist ending. Uh, The Sixth Sense, that's probably one of my top five. The Usual Suspects, I love that movie. I can watch that and pick up something new every single time. Kaiser Soze. um, yeah, just those twist endings. Those are really, I love those.
So speaking of books, like, have you read like I know I talked to Jennifer about this. Have you read any S.E. Hinton books? Because I know in junior high, like middle school, we had to read Outsiders by S.E. Hinton,
Yes, I did read that. Yep.
and I fell in love with that person. Like I even wrote a biography on S.E. Hinton because like how it's a female that wrote those books, but she went by S.E. Hinton because she didn't think in a male dominated world at the time that her book would be taken seriously.
Yeah, it's a shame, but yeah, she did what she had to do.
And I ended up reading like Rumblefish. This was then, that was then, this is now.
Hmm.
Books like pretty much every book that she did, and it had always had that gang kind of
Yeah,
a vibe to it. And like they made a movie for all of those.
yeah, yep, yeah. I remember vaguely. That's the um, that was an all-star cast too. Pony was that Pony Boy and
Yeah.
um, yeah, okay. It's just
So
been so long. My
you had
brain.
the Karate Kid in there.
Yeah, Ralph Macchio. Yep.
And then who was it? He also played in Rumblefish as well. He played in like all of S.E. Hinton's movies, and
Yeah,
that he played the lead in Rumblefish, which came out the same time as Outsiders,
yeah.
I think, or a year or two after. So since we're on the topic of books, like what other books do you recommend, not comic books? Because I know like Sheena, HK Wifey 420, station to her, she reads books, and like the book that I'm reading now, Extraordinary, is actually taken from a book called Vicious. So
Hmm.
like I'm a little bit interested in like hearing any other books besides Stephen King that you have read.
One of my favorites. I gravitate toward the psychological thrillers, the mystery, the crime mysteries. Pretty much all fiction. I don't really read any nonfiction. But one of my favorites is Defending Jacob. I forget the author now, but I believe they've made a TV show about it, and it's a lawyer whose son without giving too much away. I guess he's accused of killing somebody, and I'll leave it at that because the father's torn between defending his son, and then there's a little bit of suspicion on his own mind that maybe my son did do it, and it's just a mind fuck until the very end.
Right on. So like yeah, you do love those psychological thrillers
I
and
do.
that. So I'm guessing like even TV shows. Like what are your top favorite TV shows growing up?
Actually, I love the comedies. Three's Company with Jack Tripper. Um, I love, of course, the superhero movie, the superhero TV shows. Batman '66. I grew up with the Hulk, Lou Ferrigno. Um, Spider-Man live action and early '80s. Um, Wonder Woman. Um, uh, yeah, I remember it being Friday night, and I would get out of school, and at 8 o'clock was the Incredible Hulk, and at 9 o'clock was the Dukes of Hazzard, and then the following morning, which was Saturday morning, and that was pretty much a holiday for all kids back then. I mean, we'd get up at the crack of dawn, literally 6 o'clock, and I remember watching this show. It was kind of like a bootleg Evil Knievel, and it was about this cartoon of this motorcycle stuntman. I can't think of the name, but he was in a circus, and there was always a sheriff with him, like, and I think his name was Hank, Ernie something, Ernie Devlin. He was a motorcycle stuntman, and it would start off with that, and then it would go to Voltron, and then you'd switch it to network TV, and then just the party just kept on rolling right around till noontime. And then your mom picks you up off the floor and says, "Hey, get away from that TV. Go do something productive. Go clean your room. Do something, but have your eyes peeled to the TV."
So you say Voltron. So like, what are some of your favorite cartoons growing up?
uh, let's see here. Well, the Batman. It was called the Batman Adventures, and it was actually Adam West voiced Batman, Burt Wood Robin, and I didn't care for Batmite, but it was Batman. And the only other thing I didn't realize when I was a kid was it was done by the Filmation Company, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's all to save money. They would use the same animation cells, and uh, they'd play them over and over again throughout the episode without with a few extra that would pertain to the story, but you'd always see the same. Batman and Robin jumping into the Batmobile, and you'd always see the same Batman swinging through the city on the grappling line, and Robin throwing the batarang, and it'd all be the same animation cell.
Didn't
And
they do that with GI Joe as well?
uh, I'm not sure. I know He-Man was Filmation too. GI Joe might have been. The only other they used to have Lone Ranger and Tarzan grouped in the same hour. It would be no, I'm sorry, Zorro, Lone Ranger, and Batman, and that would all be Filmation cartoons. And it was like I said, it was that same animation cell over and over again. But when you're a kid, you don't really pick up on that until later on, and if you do, you don't really care.
So that was one. Like, name off another four that you loved.
I like GI Joe. I like the Thundercats, Transformers. Um, let's see, um, Captain Caveman. I don't know if you remember that. Um, uh, Blue Falcon with Dynamite. I don't know if you remember that. Um,
Uh,
a lot of
I
Hanna
did watch
Barbera.
that Scoob movie that came out a little bit ago. Like, it was like just a Scoob, and Blue Falcon and Dynamite was on that show. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, he
So
kind of reminded me of Batman a little bit. Maybe that's why I gravitated toward him. But yeah, it's just whatever was on, I was watching it. Saturday mornings were like a holiday for us kids back then.
like, not to like get into your age or anything, but you're probably like around the age where Hanna Barbera was pretty big,
Yeah.
and um, uh, Fraggle Rock
Yep. Yep.
and stuff like that.
Yep. The Muppets.
So like you
Yeah,
and
I grew up with somebody called. You probably don't know who this is, but Captain Kangaroo, and he had a moose. I forget what his name was, but he was always dropping ping pong balls on the captain. And of course, I had the regular Sesame Street, Mister Rogers, and the PBS stuff. And Taki actually hit on this in one of your videos, the Electric Company, and that brought back some memories because that had a very very young Morgan Freeman, and he was called Easy Reader, and it was back in the '70s, so he'd had the '70s get up, the bell bottoms, and then there would be a Spider-Man, like a live action little like mini show in the end towards, and I watched that. Um, just um, just those stuff, that type of stuff.
yeah. So going back to Hanna Barbera, like I watched Hanna Barbera. Like, I loved reruns of shows like that. I loved Wacky Races.
Yeah.
That was a show. Yogi Bear was my all-time favorite. Droopy
Yes.
Dog was one of my favorites. And that, like, who are some of your favorite Hanna Barbera characters?
Um, just basically, it was Captain Caveman. I remember watching Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, Yosemite Sam, all those characters from Warner Brothers. And it's such a shame because I mean, I know my viewpoint might be jaded because I'm a little older, but we watched those cartoons and we didn't the first thought in our mind wasn't picking up a shotgun and going to shoot somebody and stuff like that. I mean, I don't think that stuff needs to be canceled. We all watched it and we turned out fine.
Yeah, I don't see anybody acting like Pepe Le Pew.
Right.
So if they are, they're pretty much locked away. But they probably don't even know who Pepe Le Pew is.
No, no.
So yeah, I don't agree on some of the cancel culture that's out there, and some things. Like, I think we're kind of taking it a little bit too far on
Yeah.
some things. Like, I get when like somebody shows up with a gun to the Dark
Right.
Knight movies, and that was, but the, people got to understand is these people were already had something wrong in their mind beforehand. They're gonna do something whether there's a movie about it or not.
Agreed.
It's just giving them an excuse to do it in my eyes.
Agreed.
So, but on the
Yeah,
lighter
I mean, when
side,
you watch the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, you can see a slow build. I mean, he wasn't always the Joker from the beginning. I mean, pretty much when he got on that talk show with Robert De Niro, you're pretty much waiting for the minute where he would do something crazy. I mean, it's just an evolution. It starts small and then gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, speaking of movies, like I know you named off some of your favorite movies, but like you watch Dylan's Horror Show and you love Dylan's Horror Show. Like, what are some of your favorite movies that he's reviewed so far?
Um, well, I don't know if he's reviewed them, but and I don't know if people consider it horror. But I think I was telling you the other day, Jaws. I lived on a summer cottage when I was young, and we'd go to the beach after lunch, and we'd pretty much stay pretty much the whole afternoon until dinner time. My dad got home, and we'd swim in the water, and we'd pretend we were these explorers called Jacques Cousteau. I don't know if you remember that name. And we'd dive off this rock, and when that movie came out, I'd be in that water, and I'd be hearing that theme song in my head, and I'm like, I didn't want to be in the water anymore because the likelihood of a shark coming up to me, but was probably not as great, but just something brushing against your leg like a piece of seaweed would freak you out. I'd run out of the water. I'd be so scared after I saw that movie.
Yeah,
Um,
because it's like that's stuck on your in your head, and as a
yeah,
kid, and that like you over exaggerate on things. You have a wild imagination, so that brushing of the leg feels like a big shark just brushed through you.
and they actually filmed those first two movies around the area where I lived. One was in Buzzards Bay, Massachusetts, and one was in Martha's Vineyard. And I've been to both those places, and that's where they filmed those two movies. Uh,
Oh, nice.
3D was actually, I think, at SeaWorld in Florida. But I saw that in the theater, and I was freaked out too. I remember
Like, do
wearing
they
the.
have like a museum and stuff for Jaws, like in that area now?
I'm not sure, but I remember going to see that Jaws 3D with the glasses, and you'd see you see Jaws bite into somebody, and a hand would float toward you with a bone sticking out, and it was freaky when you were a kid.
Yeah, it would be. It's
Children of the Corn, that used to scare the bejesus out of me. Um, Mostly anything satanic back in the day would kind of scare me because my mom, she was the type that, whether we liked it or not, we get up 8 o'clock in the morning on Sunday mornings and brought us to church, and we stayed there for an hour, and we'd after we get out of church, we usually go get the newspaper and some donuts because we usually had family come over to the house, and that's when those Sunday newspapers were almost like 10 pounds a piece, and they'd have the comics wrapped on the outside, and that's the part I always just ripped that apart and went into my room and read the comics.
right on. Like, I know a lot of movies, horror movies that scared me, like Pet Cemetery scared me, and like I know they did a remake. Did you watch the remake of Pet Cemetery?
I have not. I saw the original.
Yeah, it takes a different approach. I'm just gonna say that. And I thought it was good, and like I know it's a remake, and like if you see in the original, you're just gonna see the remake. But I like the new graphics in it. I like the little twist that they have in it, and that I think you should definitely check that out.
I will. I will. I also liked this is a little bit older, but Jeepers Creepers, the first one, that was kind of like right up my alley, like really creepy until you figured things out. Um, Urban Legend, I liked. That's an older movie. Um, yeah, some of those.
I know Dylan is going to be doing Jeepers Creepers coming up here soon, but like hopefully Dylan is watching right now while you're naming off all these great horror movies and that, and being like, okay, you should do these as reviews.
Yeah, yeah.
And so yeah, so moving on from comics, movies, TV shows, horror, let's move on to toys. Do you collect toys at all?
No, I wasn't very much of a toy guy. I mean, I had a Batman action figure when I was small. I wouldn't know if they even called them action figures back then, but um, very limited movability. But I had a Batman. I had GI Joes. My brother was more into Transformers, and I really dug those because they changed into the vehicles and then the robots. We had Thundercats. I liked those. But after that, that was pretty much I was already in high school, and it wasn't really cool back then to be playing with action figures. And I kind of got away from it and never went back, to be honest.
I still don't think it's cool, even though I collect toys and stuff. It's just It's fun to play with them. Like most collectors, they just keep them in the package, and that's what it is. I like to play with them, so I think that's the uncool
I
part.
think
It's
they're
like,
meant
I
for
want
it.
to play with you.
I mean, they didn't just put them in a box, just stay there. I mean, they're meant for people to play with them, in my opinion.
So, is it just comics that you collect right now, or is there anything else that you kind of collect that's not quite in the nerdy category?
No, it's just basically comic books. I've always collected them, and like I said, I've taken gaps in my life, but I've always come back because it's in my opinion it's the best medium for storytelling. People can say the juvenile or whatever, and they can say different for nerds. And I know back when I was young, nerd was derogatory, and with the popularization with the Big Bang Theory and other shows like that, it's almost like cool to be a nerd. You know what I mean? And it's not as bad as it used to be. I don't think.
Well, it does help. Like we're getting to the point where like '90s was full of '80s and '90s was like full of comic book content in a way. So now we're getting to the point of time where like we're all grown up from that era. Like we had, I know myself, like I had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Batman the Animated Series, X-Men, Spider-Man, and then when I think I was 10 when the X-Men movie came out. So like we always had that nerd culture in our life, and so like now we're at the point where like all of that is nostalgia. Plus they're coming out with tons of Marvel content,
Yeah.
some good DC stuff. Like I didn't mind Aquaman. Aquaman was awesome. I did not mind the Snyder cut. Was a bit long, but I didn't mind it. Um, except for Ezra Miller, like they could have got rid of that character. But other than that, A1. And Ben Affleck is a great Batman. I'm sorry,
Yes,
Julian.
he is. Yes, he is. And it's not just because I'm originally from Massachusetts. Oh, that's if you were going to ask me my top five movies of all time, that is my top my number one is Goodwill Hunting. And
Mm.
I know it's set in Boston and everything like that, but without getting too much into it, I resonate with that character, and I love that movie. Um, and two would be maybe A Few Good Men with Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise. Three, probably Usual Suspects. Um, the Sixth Sense, maybe four. And I can't think of a number five quickly off the top of my head, but those are my top four at least.
That's awesome, man. I've recently just watched Goodwill Hunting for the first time, and I enjoyed that. That was a really great show.
I'm gonna go see About a Girl.
Yeah, gonna go see About a Girl.
And Robin Williams, he was fantastic. I mean, it took when I first saw Robin Williams, he was Mork on Mork and Mindy, and just to see the evolution in his career, what a true talent.
I remember Kevin Smith saying that like he was on the set of Goodwill Hunting with Robin Williams, and there was like a ton of people screaming for Robin Williams, and he's just like, at that time he's like, oh, he probably had it's probably for this or this, and Robin Williams is like, you, I bet you any money you go out there and ask them, they'll say they remember me from Mork and Mindy, because a movie comes and goes and stuff, but when you're on a TV show, you're in somebody's household every week of every
Yep.
day of like of that time, and so you become kind of like a family because it becomes a ritual when TV shows are only on once a week at a certain time.
Yep. My brother, he was in the military as well, and he did a USO tour over in Afghanistan, and he actually got to meet Robin Williams. And my weird ass brother, all he remembers is how hairy Robin's forearms were. But he said he couldn't have been a more down to earth, salt of the earth type of guy. Just really friendly, really approachable, and just a really great guy.
Oh, that would have been amazing to meet like Robin Williams, whether you grew up in the '80s or '90s, like he was part of your life
Oh
in
yeah,
one way, in one fashion or another, because like he was Popeye.
yeah.
He,
He spanned decades.
yeah, like Mork and Mindy. Like for me, like Aladdin, like he was the genie
Yeah,
for me,
yep.
and so I always enjoyed that.
One
And
hour photo. Boy, that took a left turn for me. just that was like a creepy movie, and he played he developed photos at a drugstore, and just really creepy.
Yeah,
Just the range he could take was incredible.
I like probably the list of two actors I find that can jump from comedy and that like um, Jim Carrey.
Yeah,
I enjoy him. He can make you laugh and then like make you kind of like think like he's a funny, creepy guy like Cable Man. Cable
yes,
Guy.
I agree.
I love that movie. And then like um, he was in another one, Room. What was that called? It was like Room 42 or something like that. It was
When
like
he plays a real psycho, was that?
yeah,
Yeah, I don't remember the name, but I know what you're talking about. It was like, whoa.
yeah, like complete change.
Oh, yeah, definitely, definitely.
And then to see him in Kick Ass #2 is pretty funny.
Yeah.
I like that as well. So like, while we're on the topic, like who are your all-time favorite actors or actresses?
Robert De Niro, Sylvester Stallone, and I didn't say these like Academy Award winning or anything like that, but it's just celebrity actors that I like to watch. Uh, Robin Williams. Um, I said Stallone, De Niro. Um, I liked a lot of the mafia movies, so all those actors, Ray Liotta. Um, um, Never really Schwarzenegger, Commando, Conan. Um, yeah, I think those are some of the ones I liked.
Awesome, man. So He-Man, you mentioned that as being one of your favorites growing up.
Right.
He-Man's Masters of the Universe Revelations just dropped. Have you watched it or do you plan on watching it?
I haven't, but I do plan on watching it.
Are you picking up the comic as well?
No, not yet.
No. I read the first issue and that because that's all that's out and it's a prelude and I enjoyed the prelude and then I watched all 5 episodes part 1 so there's another part coming out for Masters of the Universe and
Mhm.
let me tell you guys everybody's watching and John you guys are going to want to watch that like something happens in the first episode and something happens in the 5th episode and then something bigger happens in the 5th episode.
Oh wow,
So it's just it's a wild ride and like
heck yeah.
it fleshes out the character of Tila a little bit more and you get Evil Lynn in there as well and it was a fun freaking ride
Yeah,
and
I'll have
I
to check that
urge anybody to watch it.
for sure, for sure.
So is there anything you want to talk about?
Actually, I do. There's a little bit of a controversy amongst our mutual friends, and I told him I'd clear the air. Uh, Manny from Tomorrow Cinema erroneously stated that I gave him a recommendation when in actuality it was our pal Stefan from Missing Link Comics. I just want to give credit where it was due. I did give Manny some recommendations, but they weren't the 2 books that he said I gave him. Those were actually from Stefan. And yeah, I just wanted to clear the air on that and give Steph his props.
Oh no, I thought you were going to go into the whole Boston Red Sox are the best.
Yeah, that you guys don't want to hear about sports. I thought about wearing some Red Sox gear today, but I'd stay neutral and go with Batman.
So like while we're on the topic, like who are like I know you're big Red Sox fans.
Yeah.
Me and Fable and Herb and Robbie from Pop Culture Philosophers are all Yankees fans. But and you stick to your gears and you're just like, you know what, guys, like, no, I'm a Red Sox fan. I know we're friends, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna change my love for my team. So
Yeah.
I respect that on you. So like when did you start becoming a Red Sox fan? Was it like you were brought to the games or you're
Yeah, I was in the Cub Scouts, and one of our not a field trip, but well, I guess it would be a field trip, was to one of the games, and we sat out in the outfield and we watched the game, and just my first game ever, and I just fell in love with it, and people think okay, but the Red Sox they weren't always winning, And I was at the point I was wondering if they were ever going to win in my lifetime. And then 2004 happened when we came back 4-0 Yankees and came back to beat you for the World Series. And then, yeah, of course, we won a couple more after that. But it wasn't always like that. It was always we'd get right to the cusp, and then it would be yanked away from us every single year. And we had a saying up in Boston, okay, maybe next year, it would never happen. We get so close and just have the rug yanked out. But yeah, our game respects game. So I respect the Yankees because they always made us play hard, and they were our toughest opponent. And over the year, that's one of the baseball's biggest rivalries. So yeah, I respect Fable and Herm, and that's where they grew up, so that's going to be their team. Same as me. I grew up in Boston, so that's my team, and we just happen to have different teams, but I couldn't call them any closer friends than what they are.
I got my first glove, because I played baseball growing up in that junior high school, and I had a glove, and it was given to me by my foster father, and it was signed by Jeter, and it was actually signed by him and stuff. So here I am, 13. So I'm it says New York Yankees on my glove and a Jeter. So ever since then, I was like, all right. I play sports. I don't really watch sports, but I cheer for teams. And so I've always had that, okay, this is the team I'm cheering for. Here are my reasons. And I've always cheered for them. So here I am, 13, fan of the New York Yankees at that time. Cheered for them ever since because I had a glove and it was signed by Jeter. So that's my reason. I'm sticking to it. Detroit Red Wings is my hockey team. Detroit Red Wings. What's that?
Why Detroit? I'm just curious.
It was the year that they won too, and I remember I was watching them at the beginning of the playoffs and stuff. Detroit was in there, and I picked Detroit. Here I am. I think I was 13 again, and that's the year that they won. But I was cheering for them the whole way because who I was watching it with, they were like, "Okay, you need to pick a team and cheer for them the whole way." So I liked the design of the Red Wings. And that was the reason. Here I am, a kid.
Sometimes that's all it is, man. Sometimes that's all it is.
I stuck to it. So here I am today, a Yankees fan. LA Lakers. I read a bunch of books on Magic Urban Johnson and actually did a biography on him in grade 9. My basketball team was a little bit later. I was 15 when I became an LA Lakers fan. And that was all because of Urban Johnson.
Boy, you're picking all my enemies. I used to be a Celtics fan. My brother more so than I because he actually played basketball, but big Larry Legend fans, and there was no bigger rivalry back in the 80s than the Celtics and the Lakers and Bird and Magic, and good fun times.
And they were friends, man. They were friends, but they were rivals, which was very interesting.
They'd go just like the Yankees and the Red Sox. The best bring out the best in both teams, and it was just so fun to watch. So fun to watch.
Yeah, and I got to respect, in a way, Magic Urban Johnson kind of opened the eyes to people because when he was diagnosed with AIDS, everybody at that time thought it was just a gay disease.
Yeah,
and then it opened. And it's oh well, he's not gay. He was promiscuous.
Right.
And that's how he got it. And it opened up a lot of people's eyes. So in a way, it was kind of a good thing, but in a way, a bad thing.
Back then, when you heard about AIDS, it was almost like a death sentence. And how long ago did he come out with that news? And he looks great for his age, and having that disease.
I wrote that biography in grade 9. So
it's been a while.
That was a while before that too.
Yeah,
it does suck that he wasn't able to play basketball after that because everybody was scared to be around him.
Yeah,
that does suck. But he did end up in the All-Star game at one point.
Yeah, he did.
So that was good. And then for football, this is new because I never cheered for a football team. But I'm at odds now because Brother Joe and Bobby want me to cheer for the Chiefs. And then Sister Joe, who's also amazing, wants me to cheer for the Steelers.
Yeah, I don't know how they get along.
And they're married.
Yeah.
So I'm a Chiefs/Steelers fan now, if that makes any sense.
There you go. Well, you probably know the answer to my answer would probably be the New England Patriots. And just like the Red Sox, we didn't always win. I remember the Steve Grogan years, and I remember going to the Super Bowl with Grogan and Flutie, and we played the Chicago Bears in that Super Bowl, and that was with Jim McMahon. And I don't know if you know, but when you have a losing team, you always like pick another team to live vicariously through because they're winners. But that Super Bowl had me all conflicted because I had actually picking the Bears as my team B, and the Patriots were my home team. So like they were playing against each other, so I didn't know who to root for really. I mean, in my heart it was New England, but I mean Chicago too.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think we said any teams that we agree on at all. Like I know my hockey team,
It's all right. I
Steph
still love
agrees
you.
with me on that one, and then I know for my Yankee team, I know Robbie, Herm, and Fable agree with that, and then for my Lakers team, Robbie's the only one that likes that.
Yeah. No, they're all good teams. I mean, I won't take anything away. Just I love my home. And people say my mom and my dad, they moved down to Florida later on, and they thought that wherever you live is the team that you have to support. And I'm like, well, is that a rule? Is that a law somewhere? Because I'm not giving up the Red Sox, even though I live in Florida. I mean, I've stuck with them all those years. When they weren't winning, it's like even though I live somewhere else, it's like I'm not going to drop them. And my mom, she became a Rays fan, and nothing against the Rays, they're a good team, but just I don't know. I shake my head. I don't. It's got to stay loyal in my book.
Yeah, like I got to give it to the people who cheer for the Toronto Maple Leafs hockey team. Like
Yeah.
they suck, but but they're still on it. Like they're just like, you know what, I'm sticking to it, and like this is my team. I'm not gonna just bail when
Yeah.
things are getting tough. Like I'm with this team, ride or die.
That's it, man. It's a we're not fair weather fan. I don't believe in a fair weather fan. You're with them in the ups and the downs, and it's just I was with the Red Sox. I was with the Patriots. I was with the Celtics. Well, the Celtics were always winning, but back then, but the Red Sox and the Patriots weren't. And we like I said, every year we get so close just to have it yanked away, and then the beginning of the 2000s when we start turning things around and started winning a little bit more, and I could celebrate a little bit more than I used to, and that was a good feeling.
That's awesome, man. So back to comics. We started with comics. We'll end with comics.
Sure.
And that you said you love Batman. You love the Batman the Detective. They're like detective comics and that.
Yep.
Like, are you picking up all the Batman titles out right now?
I am picking up. I am picking up Batman, Detective, Robin, Batman the Detective with Tom Taylor. I just got on Nightwing because I heard it was so good. I wasn't always getting it, but I am now. Um, I'm getting the Joker with Tynan, and I think that's all the Bat books I'm getting.
Holy.
Yeah.
And like you're not just picking up those Bat books. Like are you picking up any Marvel titles as well, or?
I'm reading the Immortal Hulk and I'm reading Daredevil, but I'm reading them in trade. The only reason why I got on Daredevil was because of Bullseye. Bullseye Bob, his passion for the character is like, I got to check this guy out because this dude loves this character, and I'm lucky that it's Zdarsky writing it, and from what I've heard from Steph, Daredevil's never had a bad writer, so I guess I couldn't go wrong jumping in at any point. But what attracted me to the
Just don't
Immortal
listen to Brandon from Comics Kings. He'll tell you Kevin Smith's run sucks, but
yeah.
That's not true. I've been reading it. It's enjoyable.
Yeah, and the Immortal Hulk, I was brought to my attention. I used to love the TV show, and that was almost kind of like, it was almost, I don't know, it was a serious show. It was kind of like a sad show and a serious show, but when I found out they were doing like the Hulk and like with a horror vibe, I was like, oh, I got to get that. And I've got the first 6 volumes in trade, and I heard it kind of goes off the rails after that. It gets away from the horror, and I don't know if I'll keep going with it. But I've read the first 6, and those are really good. But yeah, I do plan on getting the Hulk when Kate's starts on it. November, I think, October, November. And I was thinking about picking up Spider-Man, with the new writer. But that's probably all I'll get. I like to stick to the street level heroes.
I was thinking getting Spider-Man when it like comes back out, but when they announced that they're it's gonna have various writers on it until they find the right one for them, and it's gonna be coming out 3 times a month.
Oh
So I'm
wow!
like, I don't know if I want to commit to that.
Yeah,
So I'm just like, maybe I'll just pass on that for now.
yeah,
But I get reading trades and stuff. Trades are sometimes the best way to read them if you like instead of going back and trying to find like later issues like The Wicked and the Divine. I have loved, thanks to Eric Durance of sending me that and introducing me to that. And I loved it. Like I'm on my 3rd volume right now, and I think you'd actually enjoy it as well.
hmm I'll have to check it out.
And on indies, like you said, you're Marvel, you're picking up a ton of DC fan
hmm
station,
Station.
and you love your indies.
Yes, I do.
And like, what are you picking up for indies right now?
I'm getting Layla Star. Swamp Thing. I'm getting from DC too because of Rom V. Um, Layla Star. I was getting Stray Dogs. The Picture of Everything Else. Um, Bunny Mask. I like the first issue. I've got the second one coming in the mail because I order online now. I used to have an LCS, but I got away from that. I've got to get issue number 2, but I've liked that so far. Um, let's see. The Autumnal I liked. I'm trying to think of them off my head. Yeah, it's basically just mostly horror though, independent horror.
Yeah, and I know
Oh,
very
that book you told me about, These Damn Kids from Second
yes,
Sight. I ordered that too.
I enjoyed that. I
Yeah.
was able to read the first issue and like to give a little review on, and I enjoyed that. I know my understanding with Second Sight Publishing. I know you see like The Edge and Blowtorch and Duplicate can be considered a kind of thriller in a way.
hmm
But Second Sight Publishing was started solely as a horror comic publishing company, and so they're going to be coming out with a lot of horror titles coming soon, like
Nice.
Silence. I know you pre-ordered Silence. You showed me that,
Yep.
and you pre-ordered These Damn Kids. I'll be
Yep.
getting those as well, even though I've read These Damn Kids. I still want it. I think the art in it is just amazing, and we've talked about it. It's psychological thriller in a way.
Yeah, I
There's no
love those.
gore in it. There is a bit, but like not heavy on it.
Right.
So I'm enjoying that.
Yeah, there's so many good books, and indie is just. I know I echo the sentiments of the whole community, but indie is just killing it lately. And there's like Bullseye Bob says, there's almost a renaissance for horror right now. It's just you see these mainstream writers that you wouldn't consider horror writers. They're basically switching to the genre because it's so hot right now.
Yeah, and even if you get like a good writer like to be able to write horror as well, because like I was saying this with C-list E-Men, James Tynan, he's writing Something is Killing the Children, Department of Truth, and that, but he also went over and like wrote Wind. And I don't
Yeah.
know if you read Wind, but like that's a book for all ages. Kids can read it and stuff, and it's fun, adventurous, and that. And to see James Tynan go from like writing Something's Killing Children, Batman or Joker, and that to Wind is just fantastic of like the range of writing he has. So I love seeing writers that are like you see them mostly on a genre and then they
Mhm.
jump to another genre and like blow your mind. It just shows you that the range of these writers have.
Yeah, from what I understand, I subscribe to Tynan's newsletter, and he's had that Win story since he was in high school. I mean, he hadn't had the whole thing written out, but he had the pieces already in place. He had them in notebooks going through high school, and it's basically kind of like a story that like he had forever, like going back to when he was in high school. And yeah, it's incredible. It really is. He's got a horror anthology magazine too, and me and Fable get that called Razor Blades. That's really good.
All right. Well, thank you so much, John,
Thank
for
you.
sitting down with me. This has been a thrill ride for me, and
It's been a
that's the
pleasure.
first.
Thank you.
I love these chatting with the comic communities because I get to sit down one on one. I know we do have our backlogged chat sometimes, but there's
What's a
usually
backlog?
yeah, but there's usually a bunch of us in there, so it you don't get the one-on-one talk and discover things that you wouldn't have noticed in a regular talk. So thank you so much for joining me on this and taking
And
an hour out of your day.
And Travis, I got to give you big props because I know you were feeling under the weather these last couple of days, and we were almost to the point where we might have had to reschedule this. But you're a real trooper, a real professional, and you just pulled on through, man. So thank you for everything.
Station.
Station.
So guys, this is the end of chatting with the comic community. What's up after this? It's Whiplash Wednesday, of course. Like I said, Fable had a show before this one. Next up is Nick Comic Culture dropping a haul video, either from his house or from his shop. Tune in and find out. Then hop on over to Big Herm Collectibles and Sam from Sam's Tangled Web as they're live talking about comics that they love. Is it Marvel? Is it DC? Is it Indies? Tune in and find out. And then always ending the night in fashion is Tomorrow Cinema, which this week he is co-hosted with Brandon from Comics Kings, and it's What Are You Reading? Who's going to be on the panel? Tune in and find out. And they always have a great show ending Whiplash Wednesdays. Guys, happy new comic book day. Happy Whiplash Wednesday. Happy new comic book day to you, John, and thank you for joining
Thank
me
you.
again.
Station.
And as always, guys, stay nerdy, my friends.